vintage sand.
Hello, 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 Vintage Sand fans, all 82 of you. Yeah, we're moving up in the world. Look at that, guys. Now we're going to need more than two hands to count. So,
we have more than two.
I know, we do have more than two. But no, actually, people...
If we get it on YouTube, we'll have a lot more.
Is that a business request? Are you asking me to do? Yeah, I have to figure that out. It can't be that difficult, but we will figure that out. But we are here. It is a hot July day, about to rain. It is Vintage Sand, and your film history podcast, the film history podcast, if I may be so bold. And we haven't shown up on Trump's enemies list, so I guess we're not trying hard enough. But hey,
well, we deserve to be on his enemies list.
Yeah, I'm saying we'll work on because you're asking people to think, and anyone who does, you do that, that's a dangerous thing.
Yes, that's right.
Can't be having that in the great new world.
Supposedly, when Nixon's enemy list was published, and when Shirley MacLaine wasn't on it, she cried for days. True story. She says.
But remember, Trump knows nothing about Project 2025.
No, he's only mentioned, 290, 300 times in it, so absolutely nothing to do with it. So there we go. All right, so we have not a long but a powerful necrology coming at the end from Michael, because we lost some people that we absolutely love and are just going to be desperately missed. But before that, the mainstream of this evening's symposium is our return for the fourth time to one of our more popular show structures, and that is the Hidden Gems, wherein we, and that would be, gentlemen, introduce yourselves to the audience.
John Meyer, hello people.
And
Michael Edmond, hello people.
And Josh Cabot, your humble narrator, hello peoples, and all other sentient life forms out there. And in the Hidden Gems, we each take one film and that has been underloved, overlooked, and make the case for I don't think anyone today, well, Michael, you might, because your film is kind of a bit of a genius film. But for my film, I'm not making the case for it as a genius film. I just think it deserves more attention. And John, I think you're there too. So we've done this before 3 times, as I said, in episode 40, in episode 30, and in episode 11. And just to refresh the collective memory, Michael has chosen Alan Rudolph's Afterglow. Could be a Julie Christie thing, possibly. Cold Turkey, the one major Hollywood film directed by Norman Lear. And Mike Lee's brilliant, actor-driven, as always with Mike Lee, Another Year.
I totally forgot about that.
Every time you said 3 times, he kind of had this perplexed look. And I was like,
well, listen, we've been doing this for 6 years now, so it's not, doesn't need to be. That's why I'm reminding. John did...
And we're ready for another 60.
There you go. John did Tavernier's Safe Conduct, which the Resistance film, which was really, really interesting. Curtis Hansen's Wonder Boys, one of our favorite Michael Douglas performances, and the one Tobey Maguire performance that Michael could tolerate. And no, it's not Tobey Maguire. And The Hot Rock, the sort of very, very of its time in both good and bad ways, comedy, about heist comedy that Peter Yates directed back in '72. And I, your humble narrator, selected the wonderful cocaine-fueled madness that is Dennis Hopper's The Last Movie, which destroyed his career, that and the fact that he was such a cocaine-fueled ass.
That he was.
Turning it the other direction completely, Bill Forsyth's wonderful, lovely follow-up to Local Hero, which was 1984's Comfort and Joy. And for the last one, we did the one-of-a-kind pro-labor manifesto made by an almost completely blacklisted cast in 1954, thank you very much. And that, of course, was Biberman's Salt of the Earth with the amazing Rosaura Revueltas. See that? By the way, that's just on Amazon. You just click and watch now. So do that, please. So today we continue the tradition with 3 films that could not be more different from each other. The first is a Cassavetes film that was... I had barely... It wasn't released at all in the U.S. in 77?
Yes, I'll explain.
Okay.
It's a very complicated...
but not nearly as well known as Faces and Shadows and Husbands, but it is starting to build and build and build and build in its reputation. In fact, was even for the basis of a recent and apparently really horrible musical.
In London.
In London. My film is an eerily forward-looking science fiction dystopian film, which when I saw it in 2013, I was like, this is never going to happen. And it was set in 2154, and I was like, he was off by about 100 years. This is happening like next Tuesday. And finally, a lovely, lovely variation that John's going to talk about on the Cyrano story by a film that had the great misfortune. It was about to be released in April 2020.
It was going to be released at Tribeca, but the Tribeca Film Festival was canceled because of the pandemic. And then because of the pandemic, they had difficulty getting a theatrical release. Netflix picked it up, but I don't think Netflix did a very good job.
I've never heard of it.
Very good job at all in promoting it.
Well,
and
sometimes they don't.
A lovely, really lovely film called The Half of It, really made me want to track down the other film this director did. I've seen it. Is it good?
Yeah, it's good.
All right. Well, we'll talk about that when we get there. But we step into the Wayback Machine, just like Mr. Peabody and Sherman, and take you back to 1977 and John Cassavetes' opening night. Michael.
Yes, opening night opened in 1977, Christmas Day, in Los Angeles, in one theater. And it received, in Los Angeles, unanimously bad reviews. But it did get 2 Golden Globe nominations somehow for Jenna Rollins as Best Actress.
No surprise.
And Joan Blondell as Best Supporting Actress. And Cassavetes distributed the film himself. It played 1 week in Washington, D.C., where I happened to have been working that winter as a congressional intern.
You saw it on its original release?
Yes.
What? You and about 10 other people.
That was about it.
That's amazing.
It never opened in New York. It never opened anywhere else, although that year it did play in the Venice Film Festival, and Rollins received the Silver Bear Award for Best Actress.
Best Actress. Absolutely.
It resurfaced 10 years later when it played the New York Film Festival. And in 1991, Castle Hill finally released it 2 years after Cassavetes' death, and it played at the Cinema One Theater in New York and then was released on VHS and later DVD. Anyway, the plot, Janet Maslin called it All About Eve for contemporary times.
That's a little simplified.
Yeah, I thought that was simplified, too simple. But it's about an actress. It's about an actress, middle-aged actress, alcoholic, famous.
Actress of a certain age,
yes.
Shall we say.
Famous, who is performing out-of-town previews in New Haven, Connecticut, of a new play called The Second Woman before it comes to Broadway. While leaving the theater, there are people who are, wanting their autographs, and there was one young girl who's in hysterics. She just says, I have to have your autograph, and she gives it to her and says, but the girl just will not stop. And Jenna Rollins, Myrtle Gordon, that's the character's name, says, come see me tomorrow. And then the girl gets hit by a car.
Yeah, she runs and follows the limo out into traffic.
And it's pouring rain. Anyway, Myrtle is unsettled by the incident, and she even goes to the girl's shiva.
That was a great scene.
Yeah, but ooh.
Yeah, I mean,
though her family greets her coolly,
to say the least.
When the
father or grandfather
says that you must not have children.
Otherwise, you would
you wouldn't know not to even show up. Yeah.
But she's having trouble connecting to this play. The other woman, she finds she has no motivation beyond her age. She departs a lot from the script and changes her lines, throws props around the set, breaks the fourth wall, and collapses on stage. frustrates everybody else in the play. One of the problems she has, she's alone now, she is at a certain age, and her ex-boyfriend or husband, we're not sure, I think it's a boyfriend, is in the play. And she's become a star, and he hasn't.
Of the John Cassavetes.
The John Cassavetes.
I thought it was an ex-boyfriend.
It could be either.
Yeah.
It could be either. But you presume that when they were together, they were at the same level, and now she's gone up, and he hasn't, and he probably resents it. He keeps saying, I have a very small part in this play. You're the star. And she wants to get back together. He doesn't.
Yeah.
The writer of the play, Sarah Good, wonderfully played by Joan Blondell.
Blondell!
And this was one of her... she did several movies afterwards.
She was in Grease after this.
But she died 2 years later.
Yep.
And so this was probably... Well, actually, it's one of the few dramatic roles she had in her later
When was
years.
Joan Blondell not good?
I can't remember once.
I mean, she's always good. Always real.
She had me at Gold Diggers of 1933, which stole the movie from everybody, and there you go.
Anyway, she's very frustrated. She does not like actresses, and in this case, you can't blame her.
Yeah.
But she keeps attempting to force Myrtle into her age. She keeps asking over and over, how old are you? Myrtle won't answer. And at one point she says, I'm 65. How old are you? And despite the animosity between them, there is a sort of a weird bond. And it's
Well, she takes her to her spirit. Well,
I'm
getting ahead.
And another
step on his parade.
And another plot in this is she now sees the young girl, the 17-year-old girl, as an aberration. And the girl is like, she envisions her as what she was when she was 17.
Right, twice she says, when I was 17, I could get in touch with all my feelings.
I actually wrote that. When I was 17, I could do anything. It was so easy. My emotions were so close to the surface. I'm finding it harder and harder to stay in touch.
So is Nancy supposed to be like a manifestation of her 17-year-old self?
Yes.
Yeah.
And, she admits it to other people. She says,
She says, I conjure her
I conjure her up.
Yeah.
She's my friend, or I forget how she puts it. But rehearsal after rehearsal, her mind continues to deteriorate, and she really drinks heavily. She, at one point, imagines Nancy attacking her, and at one point, she throws herself against the wall of the playwright's bedroom.
Right, like 5 or 6 times. Yeah.
In the meantime, the playwright takes her to a spiritualist twice. Once to New York, well, both to New York. One of the spiritualists played by Lady Rollins.
Yeah, not your favorite actress.
No, she's
okay
actually doesn't have a big part. I mean, I always have a problem with non-professionals acting, but she's fine in this. And she freaks out. And Myrtle just freaks out, and they drive back, and Joan Blondell says, well, now you know, there is a little girl in all of us. And then she gets even stranger and stranger, and she goes to another spiritualist, Catherine Cassavetes.
You begin to detect a pattern.
Yes. and that gets even stranger, and that's when she starts hitting herself. Right. And she storms out of a rehearsal, and she just wants to kill the ghost. Then Myrtle, they come back to New York. Myrtle attempts to seduce the Cassavetes, her leading man.
It's a painful scene.
But he refuses. Opening night. She doesn't come on time. She is drunk. She finally arrives. She is so drunk that she can barely stand. The audience is restless. But the director, Ben Gazzara, who's also very, very good in this.
Always.
Demands that the show goes on. They're talking about trying to replace her. But you overhear one of the producers say, we have a $200,000 advance, which in 1977 was quite a bit for a play. And you figure they got the advance because of her name. She is a big star. She struggles through the show's opening scenes, collapses before her entrance, and again on stage. And then she kind of finds a rhythm. And by the end, the third act, she and her ex, playing her current husband, they go off script, and they improvise the play's final act. The producer and the playwright is furious.
Although she stays, Joan Blondell.
Oh, yeah.
She doesn't seem...
Yeah, because the audience is laughing.
Yeah.
And you get the feeling from this play, The Second Woman, it didn't have much humor.
No, it's not a very good play.
No.
She's not wrong about that.
Yeah. And the audience is rapturous. The key is one scene in the opening where Ben Gazzara tells his wife, Zora Lampert, I want you at every rehearsal. I cannot figure out what it's like to be a woman alone. And she does. She is at every rehearsal. At the performance, opening night, she's watching the play, and a big smile comes on her face. And at the very end, she's backstage, and her husband attempts to introduce her to Peter Bogdanovich.
No. How'd you do that to anybody?
And she kind of ignores him, and she just goes to her and says, it's a privilege, and hugs her. You presume that Myrtle has made it a better play.
Or is it possible that none of this actually happens?
No, I think it happens.
Because I've read some critics that
that's-
said, no, this is clearly her fantasia of...
It
Because
could
it's
be a-
so perfect.
Yeah, I don't know.
It could be Myrtle's imagination.
Right.
But there's nothing
Because she
indicating.
is, because, I mean...
I took it straight. I took it as
Yeah.
it's actually happening.
Because her alcoholism has gotten so bad.
Yes,
Which can
true.
cause...
And that's really at the beginning. I mean, the
Which
first scene.
can eventually cause forms of an hallucination.
Right.
And also, I think part of the reason that she has such a hard time with the part is because it's too close to herself.
Yeah.
And she's in denial.
And part of the play is that she goes back to her first husband who has children. She never had a child, but she visits him, and that's ugly. And then
Yeah.
it's as I said, it's a very sad, ugly play, and I can see.
Yeah.
I mean, I wanted to say, why did you sign up in the first place? Yeah.
But the movie is, I mean, I can see why it didn't do well at all.
Well, it didn't have any kind of a release.
That's not what I mean, though. I can see why most people just wouldn't care for it.
Most people just
Yes,
didn't,
yes.
but it
Yeah.
now.
There are things about it that I admire. I mean, I really, really admire what he tried to do with this and the acting, especially Jenna Rollins and Joan Blondell. I have a bit of a problem with the way Cassavetes directs sometimes.
Okay.
It's the overuse of close-ups.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, he does.
But-
like Bergman.
And sometimes it works great, and with this I don't think it works quite as well. I think he just does it too much, and eventually it just kind of loses its power.
No, and I also read something interesting that suggested that this is the closest Cassavetes ever got to letting us into his process. That it is
Yeah.
it is theatrical, but it's also about the way he goes about his work.
Yeah,
And-
improvisation
right,
and everything, and then assimilating that into what he's trying to write.
Because when you think Cassavetes, you think those brilliantly observational, character studies like Shadows and Husbands and Faces, and this is something a little bit different. This is looking at a process, in addition to being a character study.
Yeah.
So,
I do have some quibbles with the film. It is clearly not New Haven.
Oh,
It's all filmed in Los Angeles.
Los Angeles and Pasadena. I've been in that theater.
Yeah,
the
it's
Pasadena
all filmed,
Arts
all
Center.
filmed around the
Yeah.
Los Angeles
Yeah,
area.
and you can tell.
You're too short for that gesture, Michael.
Yeah.
And besides, it went out with Mrs. Fisk.
But yeah, I've got
And
to remember
also-
he always worked on a very low budget.
Low budget.
And that's part of the reason for the close-ups.
Right.
Yeah.
Because the close-ups, you can hide the fact you don't have a lot of money to spend on set design, or a lot of extras,
Although
or other kind of
thought
stuff.
I found her hotel room to be like,
A loft.
huh?
Yeah.
Well, it's supposed to be like the penthouse or something, right?
Yeah,
Even
but
the penthouse
basically,
is
it just looked like a loft that someone had tried to
It was
convert.
odd.
Yeah.
That was
I
odd.
don't think it was a hotel.
But after it finally got released, minimally, mostly on DVD and VHS, it's become part of popular rock music culture. Now,
Or some
the
of them,
pop
yeah.
punk band Motion City Soundtrack.
Yeah.
You know them?
A little
See,
bit.
I don't. Features a song called Opening Night.
Yeah.
The Hold Steady's 208 album Stay Positives makes various allusions to the film. The closing song Slapped Actress is the most explicit. The Savages album Silence Yourself has its first track, Shut Up, with dialogue lifted from the film, one of the arguments between Rollins and Blondell. Almodovar, in the Oscar-winning
Right.
film All About My Mother,
Yes.
lifts the car accident scene from the film,
When
and at
Nancy
the
gets
end,
killed, yep.
at the end of the movie, he dedicates the film to Jenna Rollins as well as Betty Davis and Romy Schneider, and all actresses who've played actresses. Ivan Van Ho directed a stage version in Dutch that came.
It's always funnier in Dutch.
Well, it came.
No,
Have
they're
you ever
almost
se-
German comedies.
Have you ever seen any of his work?
Yeah.
Sometimes he's great, sometimes he's awful.
Loved his Crucible,
I
hated
loved
just
his
about everything else.
I liked
Yeah.
View from the Bridge.
That's right, that was
with
his
Mark
too.
Strong.
I did like that, yeah.
But the first time I ever saw him, he did a Hedda Gabler that if you hadn't read the play or known the play, you would not know what was going on.
Yeah.
But anyway, he directed the stage version in Dutch that came to BAM in 2008 as part of the Next Wave Festival and did receive excellent reviews. Now in 2019, there was an Australian import called The Second Woman, which had a cast of 101, one woman and 100 men, and ran 24 hours. Missed that.
By that much.
That same year, there was a French version that came here that had a cast of 3 and only ran 75 minutes. And Isabelle Adjani played Myrtle in that version.
But directed it?
I don't know. It wasn't a movie. It was a play.
But yeah.
In March of this year, it was musicalized with direction and a book by Ivo Van Ho, this time in English, I presume, and music and lyrics by Rufus Wainwright, and opened to London to poor reviews.
Oh, that's generous.
The New York Times said about the production, a stylish movie becomes a sludgy travesty.
Yeah. Sludgy Travesty. That's what
But
you're going
I have
for,
to say-
for your theater. We start a band called Sludgy Travesty.
That's a great name for a band,
Yes.
for a punk band, yeah.
But if you do check
Carry on,
on,
it's the sludgy travesty.
if you do check the Rotten Tomatoes, it has a 97%. And Richard Brody of The New Yorker said it was one of the best films ever made about actors and the acting process.
I can't stand him, but I can't argue with that statement.
He rarely likes anything.
Yeah.
You know. Anyway, I don't know if that's. And I said I happened to have been lucky because I was one of the first 200 people to probably have ever seen that.
When
movie.
you what do you think though when they push her out on stage when she's clearly in no condition to go out? Is it just a show must go on kind of thing?
Yeah.
Like if she can't do it, then all of these people, like in 42nd Street, like all these people are going to be out
Yeah.
on the
Although
street.
the
Of course,
director
not
at one point brings down the curtain.
Well, that was because she was really going nuts.
Yeah.
But also,
And then she breaks the fourth
there were
wall.
more as a stage actor. There were more criticisms. There would have been an understudy. Always for that kind of a role.
Yeah.
Always an
Yeah.
understudy.
Right.
Also, the whole thing about her getting slapped. She doesn't like to get slapped. Well, on stage, you don't get slapped 8
Yeah.
times a week. There's a stage. It's a stage slap, and you
Yeah.
learn how to do it.
Yeah.
Usually, you can tell. So that was kind of a red herring. You know.
Some people do read it as a feminist thing, as
Yes.
a statement of the powerlessness of women in these. Yeah.
And you can actually absolutely look at that.
Yeah.
Look at
Although
it
the
that way.
thing with the slap too, she was probably just being overly dramatic and exaggerating everything because she was pissed off at her former lover.
Right.
That could be.
Because he even says right after, "I barely touched her."
But it is not a movie that really makes you want to go out and be a stage performer.
No.
Except the only people who seem to be having a good time are the children in the play. They seem to be pretty much
Yeah, they're
enjoying
pretty
it. They're
excited.
running backstage,
Jumping on beds.
looking happy.
But I really thank you for bringing this to
You
my
had
attention.
not seen
I
it?
had not seen it. I
okay.
had seen the smaller Cassavetes films, and I had seen Gloria and the Influence. And
Well,
all,
they
but-
were released.
right.
This was never.
Is Gloria the one he did after this?
Oh yeah, Gloria was 1980.
And that was just so he could have something that was vaguely conventional?
Yeah,
or,
and it was.
And yeah. Did that make any money?
It made, for a Cassavetes film, it did quite well.
Yeah. Right, that's low bar.
And she did get another Oscar nomination for that.
But just in all the theatrical and musical influences, and this is a lesser known film of his,
Yeah.
just the volume of influence he had
Yeah.
on not just film, but on art
Culture.
in general
Yeah.
is just,
But it's odd because this one, I cannot blame you for not having seen it because it was never released.
Right.
And you can get it. It's streaming on Max.
Yeah, that's where I saw it
Yeah.
on Max. And
Anybody who's interested in really great acting or movies about acting should definitely see this.
I mean, to me,
it's long.
It's not even like, it's 2.5 hours.
2.5.
It's not even lesser Cassavetes. It's like, as I said, it's like over here. There's
Yeah.
all his other films sort of in
Yeah,
one
it's
place,
like-
and then there's this one. And if you're at all interested in, as you guys were saying, in process and theater, it's, even if you're not a Cassavetes fan, you should see it just for that.
Also, just a little piece of trivia. Joan Blondell, in an interview when the film came out, said, "Sometimes I had no idea when I'm supposed to be acting and when we were off. I mean, because the camera was always there. There was always a microphone.
Yeah.
And one tiny little bit that's a real throwaway in the movie.
Go.
Right before she goes on for the third act when she's drunk, her ex, Cassavetes, comes backstage, looks at her, and whistles. Now, whistling is another no-no. It's a bad luck. It's like wishing an actor good luck.
Yeah.
And she says, "I'm going to bury that bastard." I just love that little bit. It's a throwaway bit.
And hey, and what's her reward? She gets to meet Peter Bogdanovich. There you go.
But
one of the heroes of this podcast.
I don't think Rollins has ever been better. I think she's just
maybe Woman Under the Influence.
maybe, but
maybe.
I like this.
Yeah.
I just
Well, and you're a theater person, so this.
That's
is...
true. But I have the DVD of this, and I've lent it to some of my actor friends. They don't like it.
Interesting.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
I'm not
really,
surprised at all.
Really interesting, but an absolute must-see if you are a lover of film and/or a lover of theater. So,
anyone interested in Cassavetes?
And anyone who's interested in film should be interested in Cassavetes. I don't mean to judge, but
I do.
Well, yeah, and yeah,
I judge.
Yeah, Mike's the person who says that if you don't like Rear Window, you don't have a beating heart or something like that. Yeah. Okay. So
Speaking of Rear Window, it's been very hot. We've been in the middle of various heat waves. This year is the 70th anniversary of Rear Window.
Yeah.
So you have not seen Rear Window, get off your ass and watch it.
Seriously.
How come it hasn't been
Re-released or anything? I can
tell you guys the last thing I saw in the movies was the 25th anniversary re-release of South Park, the movie, which was unbelievable. It was so good. Thank you for not judging me. And now to continue with the non-judgment, as I was rewatching this, I was like, holy crap, are Mike and John going to hate this movie?
Well, I did. But
yeah, I know.
I'll tell you what I thought.
Well, I am a fan of genre film, especially genre film that seeks to, not too far under the surface in this case, to make a social and political point. And, there are a couple of films that people, when they talk about film in the teens, that people talk about as, the film that predicted the future. Everyone says The Social Network predicted the future. I don't really get that. I think a better one would be Her. Now that, especially now with the release of ChatGPT, the idea of falling in love with Siri doesn't sound quite as far-fetched as when Spike Jonze and Joaquin Phoenix did it in 2014. But for me, and I will never argue for it as a great movie, but to me, the film that predicted the future from the teens better than anyone else is Elysium, Neill Blomkamp's second film from 2013. It is not a great film, but I will say that flat out. But it, more than any, it's funny, and when I was talking about it with my wife, she said, I don't remember anything about the film, but I remember the look and the feel of it. And I've never seen a film that was more, in the way it's shot, that's more realistic about presenting what is supposed to be, as I said before, set in 2154. I think we're going to get there before 2054.
Yeah, well, if Trump is elected.
Right, no, and the plot, and Blomkamp had come off a huge, out of nowhere success with District 9, which again uses genre, sci-fi, in this case literal aliens, to sort of not only give you a feel for what life is like as an alien when they round them up into camps, kind of like, we're doing here in America, and also just the apartheid experience as well that he grew up with. And that was just a stunning film, and expectations for Elysium were really high. And it disappointed. And Blomkamp himself said, I could have done it better. He said it's a really good idea. Most people walk away from Elysium saying, great idea for a film, very imperfect in the execution. But the basic plot is, so it's 2154, although it's really next Tuesday, and the rich have abandoned Earth and built themselves the titular space station hovering above Earth, called Elysium, which is the paradise that it sounds like. You have to be like a billionaire to get up there, and have left the Earth in, burning, literally burning. And it's like the entire world has turned into a favela. And Matt Damon plays, we see him as a kid growing up in an orphanage, and he's like, I'm going to go there someday, and he meets this young girl who comes the same time, and he's like, I'm going to take you up there someday. And when they meet as adults, played by Matt Damon, and she's played by Alice Braga, who I thought was lovely in the part. Not much to do, but, lovely enough. And he is a worker for this company, and he is desperately injured, radiation, and, you look around you and all you see are disposable workers.
Yeah.
I mean, now, not in 2154. And when they pull him out of there, they have a robot go in and pull him out, and they say, listen, here's some pills. The robot treats him, says, here's some pills. You're going to die in 5 days of total organ failure. This will make it bearable.
Yeah.
So he had spent a lot of his time as a criminal when he was a teenager and a young guy, but he had given that up, gone straight, as it were, and so he needs to get to Elysium, because Elysium has these med bays where you lie down and it could literally cure any disease or illness instantly. And so it's about him trying to get, and the sort of subplot is Jodie Foster with some kind of accent that I think might have been British.
I think it was supposed to be a
South African?
South African
well,
she went in and out of it.
Yeah, exactly. And
I thought she would have been better off just not doing an accent.
Yeah, and she plays the Secretary of Defense up there, who believes that the president, who is far too weak in keeping illegals out of, and so she is essentially planning a coup. And that is going to happen by rebooting the station. And there are so many things. I don't want to give too much of the plot away. The plot is amazingly obvious. I mean, you'll see everything coming at least 20 minutes before it happens. But
unfortunately, the premise is so relevant.
Right, and that's the thing. Because Blomkamp takes a lot of time just showing us Los Angeles. Just shots of the city, long shots, close-ups, and it just feels so painfully real.
Spoiler alert, it was not filmed in Los Angeles.
Yeah, no, I know. And, the bad guy who's played by Charlton Copley, who was also the bad guy in, he's not even supposed to be a character. He reminds me of the bad Terminator in Terminator 2. He's just literally unstoppable. You blow him up and he just keeps coming and coming and coming.
Yeah, but his accent reminded me of Groundkeeper Willie.
But
I know it's his accent.
That's a real South African accent.
Yeah, but
and some other good. Alice Braga is very good. I'm a fan. The only Star Wars spin-off series that I could tolerate was Andor, and that's Diego Luna, who shows up as his friend Julio in the film. And I also like it because it's a good action film too. It moves along. It's about an hour and 35, an hour and 40 long. There's not a lot of fat on it, and I think Damon, anyone else but Damon, I always find him believable. I know you're not a huge fan, but he has his moments. I mean, he really does.
He's fine.
And again, for me, it's imagine that either Idiocracy or Wall-E were tragedies and not comedies. One satirical, one a children. But that's what this world looks like. And the thing I love most about it is, like Cormac McCarthy's The Road, we're never told what happened. There's no, there was a war. There's no, there was a plague. There's no, there was you just get the sense that we allowed the world to crumble around us, and the rich were just like, out of here. And every time I think I see like Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos.
Can you say Elon Musk?
Right, going up to space or doing this. Now he's talking about building a colony on Mars. There was an article in the Times yesterday. I think, holy crap, Elysium's going to happen in 20 years, not 130 years. So, again, a plot that you'll be able to predict 20 minutes in advance, some definite bad, but again, I think a really good use of a maligned genre like science fiction, especially action science fiction, to score some political points. And as I said, back in 2013, I was like, no, come on, it's never going to get this bad. And now I'm thinking, what time is it now? Yeah, I'm sure they're building Elysium up there in secret while we speak. So a very relevant film, John, as you say, that's gotten even more relevant, I think, and worth seeing on the biggest screen possible, just because of the scope with which Blomkamp presents the world that we've allowed to fall into ruin.
But it was a successful film, wasn't it?
It made some money.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was a disappointment because everyone loved District 9, and District 9 cost nothing and made a ton of money, and so everyone was expecting District 10, and instead they got a very different kind of film. And as I said, Blomkamp himself has acknowledged he said, it was a really good idea for a film, I should have done it better. But
he's only done a couple other films since then.
Yeah. The one about the robot policeman that came out a few years ago that was really bad. And I just love the look and feel of this film. It's visceral.
Well, I really liked the premise. I was really with the movies about halfway through or so. I felt it became numbing.
Yeah.
And it was really, really hurt by the very heavy-handed music score.
Oh God, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
I would have been better off without it.
And for me, there were a couple of shots, especially when the ship landed on Elysium, that it looked phony. It did not look. I mean, I imagine it was CGI or whatever.
Yeah,
but it looked it, and it just kind of. I mean, the fighting scenes in Los Angeles, that looked real. Sometimes it went so fast that you didn't know who was fighting who.
Right, it was like, a little hard to tell. And there was a point, John, where you're right. We're like, do I really care who's fighting who?
Yeah, that's kind of me too. But you can't go by me, because I generally don't like sci-fi, and I really hate dystopian films. But occasionally I do like sci-fi. Dune 2 is the best film I've seen this year.
That's a really low bar. It's not been a great year yet, but I'm hopeful. After all, Gladiator 2 is coming out. I just saw the preview for that. Just what you were waiting for 25 years. Yeah. Are you not entertained, Michael? Come on.
I wasn't entertained by the first one.
I thought we might mention some good movies we've seen recently, but as far as the summer goes, last year we had some really good movies that came out.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of art films that are pretty good.
So, I was just picked up an article in the Times yesterday about how the Ukraine is using drones that are basically programmed to pick out their own targets, through artificial intelligence. And I'm thinking, oh boy, we are right there, aren't we? And, again, sorry to say it one more, I'll say it one last time, is that what seemed just like delusionally dystopian back in 2013 now looks straight up prophetic. Mm-hmm. I mean, it really looks like parts of the world look today, not in 2154. So a flawed film, but I think if you can see it on a big screen as possible, that you really get a feel for it, and it is, eerily prophetic in its own way, in a way that other dystopian films like Hunger Games and things like that don't really try to be.
Well,
Yeah, I mean, that's not...
Hunger Games is more of a...
Right, it's not its
Kids.
ambition. Yeah, exactly. So, from 2013, Neill Blomkamp's second feature, Elysium, and I think you will giggle your way through some of it about how clunky it is, but I think the feeling of it will stay with you, as it did for my wife, and we saw it when it came out 11 years ago. So that says something.
And it's streaming where?
It is streaming on Amazon.
Okay.
You can rent it on
Because
Amazon.
I saw it on Sci-Fi Channel, which I have to admit I've never seen this. Been to the Sci-Fi Channel before.
There you go. Well, again, and you guys...
Been exposed to a whole new world.
I know.
I am always a huge fan of couching interesting ideas, social, political, economic, philosophical ideas in genre. It's hard to do, but when it's done well,
when it's done well,
I love that. I mean, I'll just take Blade Runner and its Denis Villeneuve sequel as an example. All right, so let's take another complete 90-degree turn into a lovely film with terrible timing. Because it's so unfortunate.
But who could predict that?
Right.
I mean, Anyway, the half of it is a 2020 American film. I guess you can describe it as a coming-of-age comedy drama, although I think that kind of sells it short. It is a bit of a takeoff on Cyrano de Bergerac. Written, directed, and co-produced by Alice Wu. It was going to be in the Tribeca Film Festival that year, but unfortunately the pandemic hit and the festival was canceled, but it did win the award for Best Narrative Film at the festival.
At Tribeca, wow.
Yes, and was also nominated for Best Screenplay at the 36th Independent Spirit Awards.
Oh.
So, and then it couldn't really get a theatrical release again because of the pandemic. And Netflix picked it up, and it got favorable reviews, but Netflix really didn't. They didn't do a good job of promoting.
Right?
The
How do you
movie.
market that? Well, and also you had mentioned that she hadn't done a film in like 16 years.
Yeah, it was a long time.
But the film she did in 04 was very well thought of. What was that?
Give me a second. Saving Face.
Saving
which
Face.
came out in 2004.
That one I've heard of.
Yeah.
Because it was like the first Asian woman queer.
Yeah.
And it got a lot of very positive attention, I remember.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's good.
Yeah.
She has a nice eye, Alice Wu.
Yeah. That's because visually the movie, I really thought it did a very good job of catching the atmosphere of this Pacific Northwest small town atmosphere. It's
Squamish.
Yes, Squamish, which is fictional, but but it was a great name. Anyway, I love the opening of this movie, the animated. First, you have the quote by Plato
From Symposium, about
love is simply the name for the desire and pursuit of the whole. And we have this wonderful animated sequence with the voiceover of Ellie Chu, played by Leah Lewis.
Lee Lewis.
Who has this wonderful sort of husky voice, describing how the ancient Greeks believed that everyone had 2 heads and 4 legs and 4 arms, and that the gods were jealous and they split them in half, and that forever they were longing for their other half.
And that's what we do. Our purpose in life is to wander about and find that other half.
Find their other half.
Which we never do.
And the longing, the desire to connect with someone is the main theme of this movie. And I think it does a great job of really evoking that whole sense of longing. And the main character, Ellie Chu, is someone who would never ever think of herself as the main character in a story. She's very self-effacing. She's Asian American, living in a small town that's apparently all white. She is intellectually far superior to all her classmates. She's ghostwriting essays and reports for them and is getting paid for it.
I love that the English teacher says, "No, I know you're doing it. I just love reading them. So yeah, keep going."
That teacher character, can have a movie of her own.
Yeah, well, she's the only performer I recognize, Becky Ann Baker.
Yeah, and she has my 2 favorite lines in the movie, which I'm not going to tell because I'll spoil it for people who haven't seen the movie before. But and she's also gay, and she's hiding that obviously, because who in that town would she want to be able to tell? But it's that desire to really connect with someone, and she's approached by another student who's he's sort of the I don't want to describe him as basically a jock. That's the crowd he hangs out with.
He's going to be the sausage king.
Yeah, he's going to be the sausage
like
king.
In Palm Beach
He
Story.
seems to be
the
like
weed king.
sort of an oaf at, kind of a dumb oaf at first, but as the movie
But
goes,
a sweetheart.
We find out he's a really, really good guy.
Yeah.
And he wants her to write a letter to his object of desire, and we see in the opening scene there that she also is sort of has a secret crush on her.
Thus the conflict.
Yeah. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And the Cyrano deal, but Cyrano with queerness and Cyrano with social media, where it's
Yes.
much easier to pretend
Yes.
to be someone else, which she does.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
what she does, and she doesn't really want to do this at first, because she says, like, you know, a letter like this is too personal, it can't be authentic or whatever, and then but she's desperate for money, because we find out, you know, we see that the father, and they have a very good relationship, but the father
Believable.
is, even though he's very, very well educated, he's a PhD in engineering, because of his accent, he can't get a good job and rise above. He's working for the railroad company. But he's very much into classic movies. I think
Yes.
mostly because he loves the movies, not to improve his English.
No, definitely not.
Although
Right, no,
that's
he's
his
watching-
excuse.
He's watching Wings of Desire, and Vendors, and she's like, "Why are you watching this? It's not even English."
And he says, wait a minute, best part.
Best part, yeah.
And that's the opening. He's watching
And he's
Casablanca.
also a widower. You should.
Yes.
And-
Yeah, well,
and
that's that.
really effective.
It's very, well, not only that, it's very important because she lost her mother at a young age, and she never really comes out and says it, but you know from little hints here and there she misses her mother terribly.
Yeah.
And she sort of becomes the parent
Kind
to
of,
the father.
yeah.
The father goes into a deep depression, and he describes later how he looks out the window one day and sees that she's doing his job.
Yeah, the station. I love that he's the station master.
Yeah.
That's kind of adorable.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, the biggest thing, this movie has a big heart. There's several moments that are actually quite moving. I don't want to give too much away because I'm going to ruin the movie if you
Okay.
haven't seen it before.
But and the cultural references. I mean,
Yes.
you've got
Yeah.
she's playing Beethoven's Pathétique.
Well, of course,
Sonata,
she goes to
know.
the talent show, and if she tries to play Beethoven's Pathétique. And the first time I watched, it, I was like, of course.
And Ishiguro in Remains of the Day is a big plot
Yeah.
point.
Oh, yeah.
That
Yeah.
she and Aster, the
Yeah,
girl that
and
she's in love with.
She has that little exchange with Aster and finds out that she had read it too, and all she can say, I'm Emily Chu.
That's right. That's the best she comes up with.
I
Go ahead.
had minor problems with it. I thought the change of tone within the movie sometimes
From humor to more serious?
Yeah,
I thought that
didn't-
worked pretty well. I liked that.
Yeah,
Because I kind of like the fact that because the deep context of the movie throughout the whole movie is that longing and desire to connect with someone. It never really goes away. So there's sort of a melancholy to it.
There is one character in the film, and the boyfriend, who I think looks like he comes from another film.
A little bit. I know what
Yeah.
you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and the scene where Aster is recruited by the beautiful blonde populars. I was like, wait, what? That happened for like 2 minutes and then just was dropped completely. I didn't.
Yeah. Well,
It looked like there have been parts cut.
It's well, I apparently, because when I was looking up some things on YouTube, there's a scene that's deleted. I didn't get a chance to see it, but I agree, and I think maybe they were going to flesh out Aster's character a little bit more because you were getting the sense that she feels isolated too.
Yeah.
She doesn't really connect with these people either.
No.
So, and then it's Ellie.
And I
is
liked the actress who played Aster. She was really good.
I liked everybody except the boyfriend. I thought that it was incredibly well acted.
Yeah, everyone. Everyone was, and the Ellie Chu character played by this. She's so endearing.
And there's that subplot of her, of her English teacher pushing her to go to Grinnell.
Yeah.
2,000 miles away, and which she rejects out of hand because I have to be here with my dad, and we have no money, so I'm going to go to Eastern Washington, blah, blah, blah.
And you find out that the teacher went to that, and look where you are, you're back here. And again, I thought to myself, why is she back here?
Why
it's
is
another
she
movie.
But
there's three scenes that really I found really very effective that come to mind. One is the scene when she shares with Astor when they go to the pond.
Yeah. Oh, the hot spring! Oh my God! Yeah, that was amazing.
It's a wonderful scene. The scene with Paul and her father, and the father talks to him.
Taco sausage.
And the father talks to him in Mandarin, he seems to understand what he's saying. But and Paul, you find out he tells her you don't know what your daughter is or what she can be. And also the scene where she comes back and the father's making all the dumplings.
Oh, I love that. Why are you making all those dumplings?
Yeah, and he tells her, we didn't come here so you could be like me.
We came here so we could be like your mom. That was lovely.
Yeah.
And but I love the very last scene of the movie, which I won't say anything about.
Yes.
But,
beautiful.
Can't sing.
Yep, not saying, but I checked that, and also I really, really, really want to check out Saving Face.
Yeah.
Because I really enjoyed this.
I don't know exactly why it was so long in between films.
Maybe she didn't get funding.
It's very possible. Very possible. I know that also part of it, she tried to incorporate some of the political. She said that she was doing a lot of stuff in 2016 about Trump and everything, and she said, and that's when she started writing this, and that was part of the reason why it was. Part of it is autobiographical, but it was part of the reason too why she chose to have that setting where this one person has so many things that isolate her.
It was joyful. I mean, to watch. It was lovely. So there you have it, guys. Hidden Gems number 4. A Cassavetes film ignored at the time that you absolutely must see as a Cassavetes fan, as a theater fan, or even just as a film fan. It's a dystopian kind of year, so maybe that's what put Elysium in my mind. But and again, don't worry about the plot. Don't worry about ignore Jodie Foster's in and out accent and the fact that she's playing the same character that she played in Inside Man, sort of the fixer, kind of person. But that's a whole other story. And just see it on as big a screen as possible to get the feel and this lovely intimate twist on Cyrano, half of it.
I have to say that this subject, Hidden Gems, is one of my favorite things to do in this podcast because it gives us a chance to talk about a movie
and
more
see
length.
Something that I would never.
And to expose people to things that didn't get the notice they deserve.
And that has to repeat myself as I have all through the podcast, but we don't posture ourselves. We are not film critics. We're not frustrated filmmakers. We're not. We are
frustrated actor.
Yeah, well, Daffy Duck. All right, there you go.
Or Hedda Gabler, my two roles.
We are
Daffy Duck is Hedda Gabler.
We are just fans, and we are, whenever we get together, we talk about movies anyway. So we're just bringing you in on this, and our whole idea is to just open some doors that you might not have discovered on your own. And I think all 3 of these films have something to offer, and that I think you're right, John. And by the way, if you look at the numbers, the Hidden Gems episodes are often listened to by whoever is out there. So yes, I'm watching the numbers. So I'm just delaying because I don't even want to do the necrology because we lost we lost so many amazing people. This is going to be brutal. But Mikey, the stage is yours.
Oh boy. Okay, Tony Lo Bianco, 87. Film, TV, and stage actor. He was known in film primarily for tough guy roles, but the film that first brought him prominence was in 1970, portraying real-life murderer Ray Fernandez, who, with his girlfriend Martha Beck, murdered unsuspecting women in The Honeymoon Killers.
Oh, that's such a good movie.
You seen that? It's
out
creepy.
Of nowhere.
It is so creepy. The following year, he was featured in The French Connection as Sal Boca,
He's excellent in it, too.
who uses
he
his
is.
Brooklyn diner as a front while helping a criminal syndicate smuggle heroin from overseas. He continued playing criminals in The Seven Ups, Fist, City Heat, and in Oliver Stone's Nixon, as a gangster acquaintance of the president. It was on stage where he excelled, however. He won an Obie Award for the play Yanks 3, Detroit 0, Top of the Seventh, as an aging big league pitcher attempting a comeback. The play, directed by Alan Arkin, ran off-Broadway for over a year. His big Broadway achievement was in a revival of Arthur Miller's A View from the Bridge in 1983,
Right.
which won him a Tony nomination for Best Actor, and he was great in that. It's a performance I can't forget. As Eddie Cabone, a Brooklyn longshoreman with a destructive love for his teenage niece, Frank Rich in the Times wrote, "Volatile one moment, totally withdrawn the next, the actor travels with a cloud of impenetrable turbulence that visibly buffets all around him." Late in his stage career, he portrayed Fiello LaGuardia in the one-man show His Honor. Now, the play flopped on Broadway, only ran 2 weeks, but Lo Bianco rewrote it and renamed it The Little Flower, and it played for over 20 years all over the world. I mean, he'd literally take the set out of his apartment or his warehouse and perform it somewhere.
Wow.
He continued working on television and in movies, such as Blood Brothers, City of Hope, and Mafia. And most recently, in 2023, he was Ray Romano's father in Somewhere in Queens, which marked Romano's directorial debut, which I did see. That was one of the 49 movies I was talking about. And it was a pretty good movie. And Romano can direct. Okay, Anitha Seibert, 84, costume designer and later a studio executive and producer. She was partnered with her husband, production designer Paul Seibert, on 3 films, and with his twin brother Richard Seibert on another 8. Her second film she costumed was Rosemary's Baby, where she was told by director Roman Polanski to think of it as a Doris Day movie. She wrote in the 2006 book Designing Movies, Portrait of a Hollywood Artist, that Polanski, quote, wanted everything to look ordinary. People are put at ease by ordinary, and in fact are put at ease by garish. He didn't want anything in the film to seem sinister. Other films she costume designed were A New Leaf, Carnal Knowledge, Elaine May's The Heartbreak Kid, Shampoo, King Kong, and The Last Tycoon. She teamed with Polanski for Chinatown, which won her the first of 2 Oscar nominations. The second one was for Fred Zimmerman's Julia. In 1978, she left the costume business after having disagreements over the costuming of Fist. She was hired as vice president of production at Warner Brothers, and then worked with Paula Weinstein at United Artists. In 1982, she and Goldie Hawn, they'd first worked together on Shampoo, led a Disney-based production company, and she produced such films as Protocol, Wildcats, Overboard, Crisscross, all starring Hawn, as well as Something to Talk About with Julia Roberts and My Blue Heaven with Steve Martin. In 1995, she and Paula Weinstein won a Primetime Emmy Award for producing the TV movie Truman, with Gary Sinise as the 33rd president. She retired in 1999. Did you see Truman? That was
No,
pretty, that was good.
I like Gary Sinise.
Yeah,
I
he was really good in that.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened to him. Where is he?
Well, he works. He's become very right-wing.
Oh, no. How could you, Lieutenant Dan?
Yeah.
Get your leg shot off in
I
Vietnam.
think he's got one of those. Doesn't he have one of those CSI shows? Or
I don't know.
I don't know either. Okay, Anouk Aimée, 92, French film actress. The daughter of 2 film actors, she made her debut at age 13 in 1947 in Ma Maison sous la mer. She was billed simply as Anouk. But larger roles in more prominent films came her way. In 1960, she played a sex-starved socialite in Fellini's La Dolce Vita. In 1961, she received rave reviews for the title role in Jacques Demay's Lola.
Yep.
Fellini then cast her as Marcello Mastroianni's jealous but patient wife Louisa in 8 1/2.
one of the sexiest performances
Yeah,
in her own quiet
I
way
agree.
ever.
I think she's great in that.
I love that
Yeah.
character.
Yeah, I agree.
But the film that brought her
Yeah.
fame was in 1966 in Claude Lelouch's A Man and a Woman. In it, she played a young widow who falls in love with a race car driver, Jean-Louis Trianon. The film was an enormous success, nominated for 4 Academy Awards, winning 2 for Best Foreign Language Film and Best Original Story and Screenplay. Demi won an Oscar nomination as Best Actress, the first French actress to be nominated for a performance in her native tongue.
Really?
Yep. She also won a Golden Globe Award and a BAFTA Award as Best Actress. Now, there were 2 sequels. A Man and a Woman 20 years later, in 1986, which was a financial and critical flop, and The Best Years of a Life, 2019, her final film, which fared better. Did you see either one of them?
No.
I didn't. Well, I didn't like A Man and a Woman, so.
No.
Most of her films were in Europe, but she made a few American films. The Appointment for Sidney Lumet, and the title role in Justine for George Cukor, both in 1969. Did you see that?
I managed to avoid it so far.
Great! It kind of ended George Cukor. I mean, he continued
He kept
to
making
work,
films, yeah.
but that film was, and I saw it. It was a major flop.
Oh.
She played the title role. It had a cast including Dirk Bogarde, Michael York, Anna Karenina, and Robert Forster.
Wow.
Bombed. And neither The Appointment or Justine are available. You can't stream it either, so.
It's a mercy.
But she later worked for Robert Altman in 1994's Pret-a-Porter, Ready to Wear, which was also considered a failure, but she received the best reviews of the film, in a cast that included Mastriani, Sophia Loren, Tim Robbins, Julia Roberts, Kim Basinger, Tracy Ullman, Stephen Ray, Lauren Bacall, and Danny Aiello, among others. And she was sort of the soul of that movie. Did you see it? Did you see Ready to Wear? I liked her in it a lot.
I think she's the soul of 8.5,
Yeah,
too.
yeah. But I really liked her in that, and I thought, oh, God, where have you been all these years? In 1980, she won the Cannes Award for Best Actress for the Italian film Leap into the Void, and in 2002, she received an honorary Caesar, the French equivalent to the Oscar, for her body of work. In a 2000 interview, she talked about working with George Cukor, complaining that she wanted to talk about Fellini, and all he wanted to do was talk about Garbo. So they did not.
No.
They did not click.
They did not click. And if you ever can see Justine, and I'm guessing all prints have been destroyed.
Have you guys seen Lola?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, God, I love that movie. I mean, not as much as Cherbourg, but I love that
Yeah,
movie.
that is a good movie. And she was beautiful. I mean, God,
Yeah.
and even
But
in 1994 in Pret-a-Porter, she does a nude scene, and nobody goes, yuck.
Yeah.
Yep, no, she's Pret.
Okay, Donald Sutherland,
Oh,
88,
ouch.
Canadian actor, made quite a few films in the 60s, such as Die Die My Darling with Lula Bankhead. Did you ever see that one?
Nope, got to start somewhere.
Really
No.
bad. But became noticed with his performance in 1967's The Dirty Dozen.
Yep.
Now, out of 199 film appearances and TV appearances, the New York Times recommended 15 of his films, and this list will show his immense talent and range. And all of these are available on Amazon, Apple TV, Fandango at Home, and YouTube. MASH,
Sure.
Robert Altman, 1970. Alex in Wonderland, Paul Mazursky, also 1970. Klute, title role, Alan J.
Wonderful.
Pakula
Yeah, good
in
movie.
1971. Don't Look Now,
my favorite
Nicholas
Sutherland
Rowe,
films.
and I understand it's just been
Yes, it's been remastered in
I
4K.
hope it comes
Yep,
to film form or something,
It probably will.
because I'll be there.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Day of the Locusts, John Schlesinger, 1975.
Which I have not seen in
not-
ages.
It's not very good.
Yeah,
Great-
I
great
remember I
novel.
saw it.
Great
when it-
novel.
I saw, great novel. I saw it when it came out.
Yeah,
I
me
was
too.
really disappointed.
Yeah. Yeah, and I wasn't even crazy about Sutherland, but that was almost 50 years ago, so I should give it another look. Animal House, John Landis.
And he's only on screen for about 3 minutes, too, as the professor. Yeah.
1978, which you can get on Netflix.
Yep, lovely.
Oh, also, Don't Look Now, you can get on Criterion Channel.
Don't miss it.
Invasion of the Body Snatchers,
Great.
1978, Philip Kaufman. You can get that stream that on Amazon Prime. The Great Train Robbery, 1979, Michael Crichton.
Yeah, it's sort of fun.
I never saw it. MGM
I
Plus.
saw it when it came out.
Ordinary People.
Oh, my.
1980.
Yeah, it's excellent in that.
Robert Redford, Max. You can get it on Max.
It's a completely different side of
Yes!
something that you hadn't
Right,
seen
and-
before.
He could do anything.
JFK, 1991, Oliver
as
Stone.
Mr. X.
Yep.
Yeah, and he's excellent in that
Yes,
scene.
he is.
That monologue is
Yeah.
like the heart of the film.
Yeah.
6 Degrees of Separation, 1993, Fred Schiffy. And you can get that on Amazon Prime. Without Limits, 1998, directed by Robert Towne. That's about the runner Prefontaine.
Oh, Steve Prefontaine. Yeah, that's right.
Space Cowboys, 2000.
I love
Clint
that
Eastwood.
film. It's
I
goofy,
enjoyed
but
it.
it's
Yeah.
goofy.
It's fun.
It was fun. Pride and Prejudice, 2005. Joe Wright plays
Yeah.
the father. And then The Hunger Games, 2012. Gary Ross. You can stream that on AMC Plus. That's 15 films.
He's wonderful in those films.
Yeah.
He's so quietly
Yeah.
menacing. Just wonderful.
Yeah, I was gonna say I just I'm one of those actors who could play goofy, who could play the villain,
Yep.
or he could play the really like upstanding, really good guy.
Yep.
Very versatile.
Yeah. He was never nominated for an Oscar.
Wow.
Although he
Should have
did.
been for Ordinary
For
People.
that, I couldn't figure out. At the time, I thought, huh?
Yeah,
That was bizarre.
Well, Hutton won anyway that
because
year,
it
right?
was
Yeah.
Supporting.
because it was
for lead,
because it was
yeah.
a side of him that we just hadn't seen before.
He should have been nominated. I mean, Mary Tyler Moore was nominated. Judd Hirsch was nominated,
Right.
but not him. And I thought,
Yeah,
why? I could not figure that out. He did receive an honorary Oscar in 2018, and he did win a Primetime Emmy as Best Supporting Actor in Citizen X in 1995.
That's a loss, man.
Anything else you want to say?
And Kiefer's dad. So,
Kiefer's dad.
I remember seeing Kiefer for the first time in Lost Boys, like, or
Yeah.
Stand By Me, rather. And like, wow, does he look a little bit like his daddy? Not quite as good an actor, but
No,
but
he's
his moments.
decent.
pretty
He's
good.
good.
But you're right, John. He could do anything.
Southern, yeah.
Anything.
Really.
And as I said, my favorite. What's your favorite? My favorite performance of his is "Don't Look Now." I mean,
And mine is Ordinary People, and MASH,
yeah,
and Don't Look Now,
yeah. I mean, it's hard to choose.
and Clute.
He's wonderful in Clue.
yeah, that's a really good movie.
Really, really. And at the time,
That might be a candidate for a hidden gem.
it should be.
It's just,
I don't
know
think
that-
it's so hidden.
None of my younger friends know about it.
Yeah,
though.
that's true.
I know.
And it
I mean, I know she won Best
the
Actress
Oscar.
that year, but
It was a success. It was a very successful film.
Yeah, you're right. Actually, it was.
It was.
But to hold your own against Jane Fonda, 1971 Jane Fonda. That
Well, at the time, people didn't think he had. He
Yeah.
did not get the greatest of reviews.
I
And
always like that.
yeah. Okay, Robert Towne,
Ouch.
89.
Ouch.
Screenwriter and occasional director and actor. His screenplay for Chinatown was voted by the Writers Guild of America as the third best screenplay ever written.
I ain't arguing.
Casablanca and The Godfather were 1 and 2. In case anybody wants to know.
Although not with his original ending.
And
though.
Citizen Kane and All About Eve were 4 and 5. But okay.
That's pretty good company.
Yeah. He grew up in Southern California, where at age 7 he saw his first film, Sergeant York, and fell in love with the movies. And went to Pomona College, where in his acting class he met Jack Nicholson. He started writing TV shows in the 1960s, and his first credited screenplay was The Last Woman on Earth in 1960 for Roger Corman. He became a script doctor and worked uncredited on Bonnie and Clyde, Drive, He Said, McCabe and Mrs. Miller, The Godfather, and The Parallax View. Although he did have a second credited script with Villa Rides in 1968, co-written with Sam Peckinpah. It was 1973's The Last Detail, which brought him notoriety and his first Oscar nomination. The following year brought him the Oscar for Chinatown. Out of 11 nominations, Towne was the only one to bring home the gold. That same year, he was credited, along with Paul Schrader and Leonard Schrader, for writing The Yakuza for Sidney Pollack.
Right.
In 1975, he won his third Oscar nomination in a row for co-writing Shampoo with Warren Beatty. In 1982, he made his directorial debut with the film Personal Best, which he also wrote. The film, which starred Mariel Hemingway, Scott Glenn, and Patrice Donnelly, dealt with female track athletes and was a financial and critical bomb. He was working for several years on Greystoke, The Legend of Tarzan, but when the film, directed by Hugh Hudson, was released in 1984, he had his name taken off the credits and replaced by his sheepdog's name, P.H. Vasak.
Yes, P.H. Vasak.
But despite Towns' displeasure, his script resulted in his final Oscar nomination,
Only in
thus
Hollywood.
becoming the first and only dog to be nominated for an Oscar. In 1988, he directed his second film, Tequila Sunrise, with Michelle Pfeiffer, Kurt Russell, and Mel Gibson. I kind of like that one.
Yeah, not terrible, but yeah.
It was a far more successful film, both critically and financially. Yet Town only directed two other films. Without Limits in 1998, with Donald Sutherland and Billy Crudup about the runner Steve Prefontaine.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
And Ask the Dust with Colin Farrell and Selma Hayek in 2006.
Oh, based on the Fontaine novel. Yeah, that's a totally unfilmable book. I don't know why you would do that. But...
Well, neither film was successful.
Yeah.
Now, he was supposed to direct the sequel to Chinatown called The Two Jakes.
Oh, boy.
But the project was plagued with problems, including fights with Jack Nicholson and Robert Evans, and the project was shelved, but brought back a few years later as a film directed by Nicholson. That one was critically and financially unsuccessful, and it deserved to be.
Oh, it was terrible.
Yeah.
One of the worst sequels.
Plotting.
Yeah. Whew.
Why?
He continued working as a writer, and his later credits included Days of Thunder, The Firm, Love Affair, and Mission Impossible 1 and 2.
Yeah.
At the time of his death, he was working on a TV movie of Chinatown, a prequel. Pauline Kael, in reviewing Shampoo,
The Iris Ling story.
I don't know.
Forget it, Mike. It's prequel to Chinatown.
Pauline Kael, in reviewing Shampoo, said, with his ear for unaffected dialogue and a gift for never forcing a point, Town may be a great new screenwriter in a structured tradition, a flaky classicist.
Yeah, that's about
I
right.
love Shampoo, and I realized
Shampoo's great.
And I realized I forgot to mention it when we were talking about 1975 films, the films of the 70s. I totally.
Oh, in the Oscar, you mean the alternate Oscars?
Yeah, I forgot to mention Shampoo because I think that is possibly one of the best sex comedies ever written.
And it stands up. It doesn't feel dated at all.
Well, it was when it came out. It took place on the day Nixon was elected. But I love that movie, and not just because of Julie Christie either.
I didn't say anything.
No,
you said
but you
it.
were
I didn't
thinking.
say,
But you were thinking it.
Why not?
Although she happens to be great, and I had
she's amazing.
And I had a poster of the film in my dorm room of the three of them, and she
made you very popular.
It did.
See, there you go.
It did. Okay, and finally, sadly, Shelley Duvall, 75.
Yeah.
Film and TV actress and TV producer. Now, she had never acted when crew members for Robert Altman were at an art show in Houston where she was selling her boyfriend's paintings. They invited her to sell them to Altman, who was looking for an unknown actress to play Bud Cort's girlfriend in Brewster McCloud. Altman liked her and cast her in the film, and then she later appeared in 6 other Altman films: McCabe and Mrs. Miller, Thieves Like Us, Nashville, Buffalo Bill and the Indians or Sitting Bull's History Lesson, Popeye as Olive Oyl, and most noteworthy, 3 Women, where she won the Palme d'Or Award at Cannes for Best Actress,
So good in
as
that.
well as the LA Film Critics Award. I agree. I think that's a great film that people don't know about.
This didn't get much notice at all.
It doesn't.
It's so good.
After Nashville, it may be his best.
I don't know if I would disagree. Yeah. Other films include Annie Hall, Time Bandits, and Roxanne. But the film she's most remembered for is Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, where she played Jack Nicholson's tormented wife. The reviews were mixed for Duvall, and she was nominated for a Razzie Award as the worst actress.
Come on.
But in 2022, the nomination was officially rescinded.
Thank you.
The Razzie's official statement said, "We have since discovered that Duvall's performance was impacted by Stanley Kubrick's treatment of her throughout the production."
Oh, just a bit.
But there was widely despairing. She got terrible reviews. She got great reviews.
Yeah.
It was.
Here's Johnny.
Yeah. Now, on television in
Michael isn't home, Mrs. Edmund.
Okay.
Yeah, we've had our moment.
Yes. On television in the early 80s,
You're a bad influence, John.
On television in the early 80s, she produced and starred in fairy tale theater, and in 5 years there were 27 shows produced and had notable directors such as Tim Burton, Ivan Passer, Eric Idle, Roger Van Dien, Francis Ford Coppola, and of course, Robert Altman. Among the many, many actors who appeared were Ed Begley Jr., John Lithgow, Tim Conway, Eve Arden, Leonard Nimoy, Lee Remick, Alan Arkin, Jenna Rollins, Helen Mirren, Liza Minnelli, Robin Williams, Jeff Bridges, and Vincent Price, to name just a very few. And in the early 1990s, she produced and narrated Shelley Duvall's bedtime stories. She continued to act in the 1990s in supporting roles, most notably in Jane Campion's The Portrait of a Lady. But she stopped acting in 2002 and returned to her home in Texas, where she just disappeared.
Yeah, just walked away. Had enough, I guess.
Until 2021, she pretty much dropped out of sight except for an unfortunate appearance on a Dr. Phil show.
Oh, yeesh.
Yeah, apparently it was very ugly and she was very unhappy. It discussed her mental illness, but, well, he's awful.
Yeah.
She did, however, return and acted in the film The Forest Hills last year, which was shot remotely and directed over Zoom. And there's actually a lovely article with her just 2 months ago in the New York Times. And you can read it.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it was in depth. And you got to know why she disappeared. And she suffered from diabetes.
That I know.
She was confined to a wheelchair. But she just, I just did not know that she was totally an untrained actress. She just literally was discovered.
I mean, for all of you who know her from The Shining, please see Three Women
Yes.
as soon as you can possibly.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she's also good in her first film, Brewster
Brewster
McCloud.
McCloud, yeah, lovely.
And that's it.
All right, boy, lost some, not too many, but some very, very big, a lot of big holes to fill. All right, we move from the sadness of that into the pure joy that is America's favorite segment of Vintage Sand. That would be the John Meyer Monthly Quote Quiz. Jono, what do you got for us this month?
Well, before going to the quote, I just want to say that if you are interested in watching the half of it, to look up Alice Wu, because she's a really, really interesting person. We could talk about another half hour about her, about the path that she took. It's fascinating.
Yeah, I really want to see the other film.
So,
Yeah, me too.
yeah. Anyway, the quote from the last episode was, "See, in another 25 years, you'll be able to shake hands. You'll be able to shake their hands in broad daylight." That was Gene Wilder speaking to Cleavon Little in Blazing Saddles, 1974, directed by Mel Brooks.
Yeah.
I work for Mel Brooks.
Anyway, the new quote is, "So, even though you have broken my heart yet again, I wanted to say, in another life, I would have really liked just doing laundry and taxes with you."
Oh, I know what that one is. I got it.
I knew you would get it.
Yep, got it.
I'll give a hint. It's a more recent film.
So, if you...
One last thing.
Go, Mikey, go.
I just finished a film book that I'd like to recommend.
Please.
It's a memoir by Griffin Dunn.
Oh, yeah. I saw him interviewed.
Yeah.
It sounds fascinating.
Yes, it's
He must
very,
have some
very
stories
good.
to tell.
The Friday Afternoon Club, I highly recommend it.
Beautiful. I've always liked his, I love After Hours and American Werewolf in London.
Talk about coming from an interesting family.
Oh, yeah.
Well, there's that. Yeah, too. So, if you think you know where Johnny's quote comes from, and if you want to find out and confirm, please check it out on our website. That is the cleverly titled www.vintagesand.com. And we're going to take August off, I believe. And we still haven't exactly settled on what we're going to do for our September episode, but perhaps we've been threatening to do the Joseph Losey episode for about a year now, so I think it may be time.
He's still dead, you know.
He's still dead, and the boy still has green hair, so I think we're going to get on that, and especially focus on the British ones with Dirk Bogarde that you love so much, with great justification, I should add. So listen for that, and I want to remind the assembled at this point that Vintage Sand is, as ever, a 5 9s and a 4 production. I want to thank Melissa for her technical help, Mama Sue for the erstwhile use of the hall, and Theo for the lovely, lovely logo. Remember that we are now on Spotify, as well as Apple Podcasts and SoundCloud. And yes, John Meyer, I'm going to see if we can get us on YouTube in some way that doesn't take up half of our lives. So I will try to do that. Again, please check out www.vintagesand.com. Please leave us your feedback and suggestions. I want to point out that our last episode, the 1974 50th anniversary episode, came at the suggestion of one of our listeners at our 50th, and I'm working on I ordered the t-shirt.
Okay, great.
The t-shirt is coming. If you know, you know. So there you go. So everybody, please stay cool. Try to find a movie out there that is not, maybe the space one will be good. You know, the one about faking the moon landing.
It got fair reviews. I'll see it.
And I liked Inside Out too, I guess, although now it's Pixar's most popular film box office-wise ever.
Oh, really?
I don't get that. Please try to find something that is not a prequel, a sequel, a reboot.
Well, you can watch Rear Window.
Yeah, or you
it's
can
the
watch
70th anniversary.
That's right. Or you could go down to Film Forum and check out Seven Samurai on a semi-big screen,
Oh, that's
which
right.
is
And
worthwhile.
Army
of Darkness.
is running at the Film Forum from August 2nd.
Army of Shadows is playing
Army
at
of
Film
Shadows.
Forum?
Yes.
Oh my God. Okay.
August.
The Melville film made in '69 that was the
Yes.
best film of 2009 because it
And-
didn't get released
Right.
here for 4
And
years.
it's a new print.
Oh my God. Okay, I'm going to that.
Yeah, 2 weeks. I think it's August 2nd to the
Amazing.
17th.
Guys, if you haven't seen that, that is, as good as Safe Conduct was, a film about the French
Yes.
Resistance, because Melville was there and in it.
He
and
was the real deal.
Right, you could feel that. And John, as you said once, everyone says they were in the Resistance.
Yeah.
Although, look at France. France just repudiated Vichy.
What a shot!
They did a
Yeah.
Captain Renault and threw the Vichy water in the
I
garbage can.
was so happy. I mean, France is ungovernable now, but at least they didn't
I go which way the wind blows.
Time to go to the Free French Garrison in Brazzaville for all of us.
The
That's
red
what I'm
wind
saying.
blows from Vichy.
I was so happy when that
So
happened.
again, try to find yourself something that is not related to other intellectual property. Be well, be good, and we end with our usual benediction and blessing to you. May your favorite films always be streaming.